Well, good morning, everyone. The clock on the wall says it's 8:30. Well, now it says it's 8:31. We'll use that as our official clock for if we need an official clock for anything. My name is Buck Malick. I'm the chair of the St. Croix County Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's February 26, 2026, and we are at the St. Croix County Government Center in Hudson, Wisconsin. This is the place and the time that were announced and I think publicized. Is there anybody in the room who thinks there might have been a defect in the publication of the notice of this meeting? You know, there are laws that require us to have published an agenda in advance. If anybody is aware that that didn't happen or knows of any defect, please speak up now. Okay, my 21 years, there never has been, but our bylaws say we're supposed to check out on that. Now I'll do the roll call of the board members and the staff, the county zoning staff who are here and planning to speak. I'm Buck Malick. I'm a resident of the town of Hudson, Wisconsin. Mr. Peterson?
Dave Peterson, citizen member, town of Kinnickinnick.
Greg Talajohn, District 14 Supervisor, representing Aaron Prairie, Richmond, and a little bit of Warren Township.
Mr. Miller?
Bill Miller, town citizen member.
Alicia Schneider, town of Troy, citizen member.
Kevin Graybow, Land Use Administrator for Community Development Department.
Jason Cheezick, Community Development Director.
Julie Peterson, Community Development Department.
Good, thank you all. Thank you all. Presumably that also sets up to make sure that our sound recording system works. We have on the side of the room to my left a small pile of agendas for today's meeting and a place for people to sign in. If you think you might speak today, we ask you to sign over there because the testimony that we take, being a quasi-judicial body here, the testimony needs to be under oath. And rather than administer the oath as people come to the podium to speak, we ask that they sign over there and do it in writing. It also gives Julie a head start on getting the spelling right on people's names if that ever becomes necessary. So please sign in before you step up to the podium to speak. Board members, we have minutes from our last meeting, which was January 22nd. I will deem them approved unless you have edits or corrections to offer at this time. Does any board member have a change to offer? No. All right, we'll deem them to be approved then. You're still on, Joe. So just don't. Turnabout is fair play. All right, I think we have two cases or two matters to deal with today. Both involve variances, which is our most challenging kind of decision. The Swanson and the Twin Springs matters. And so now we'll call on the zoning staff to make the staff presentation. So are you up first, Kevin? Mr. Graybow? Yeah, good to have you back. Mr. Graybow is a regular here for a number of years. I was looking back in the records, and I've been doing this for 21 years, or at the end of this term, it'll be 21. I've been the chair for 20. It's been a dark period in the history of the county. Anyways, welcome to the podium, Mr. Graybow.
Thank you. It's been a while.
The floor is yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the first item on the agenda will be for the Swanson conditional use and variance request. Here's the cover memo. So just to give you some background, The applicant, David Swanson, requests a conditional use permit in the Lower St. Croix Riverway Overlay District as required by St. Croix County Ordinance Section 17.36 F3A5, which is filling and grading within 40 feet of a slope preservation zone. To reconstruct and expand, landward expansion of a non-conforming principal structure on a 7.15 acre parcel located at 1466 Pine Tree Lane in the town of St. Joseph. The information about the Class 2 public notice was published in the Star Observer for the weeks of February 12 and February 19th to establish the hearing today, which is February 26th. In addition, property owners within 300 feet of the subject property outer boundaries have been mailed a public hearing notice. Moving on to the staff report. So we are going to talk about a conditional use permit and variance staff report for the Swanson property. Again, the site address is 1466 Pine Tree Lane, located in Section 22 of the town of St. Joseph. Also in the Lower St. Croix Riverway Overlay District, rural residential zone. And the site is 7.15 acres in size. So the first request, the conditional use permit, is for filling and grading within 40 feet of a slope preservation zone to reconstruct and expand landward a non-conforming principal structure. And then the second request is a variance. It's actually a two-part variance. So there was one application with two separate variance requests. The first request is pertaining to Section 17.36 I2EI1 or 17.36 I2E1I, expansion of a non-conforming principal structure. And the reason for this variance is that the applicant is proposing to increase the footprint of a non-conforming principal structure that's located within 40 feet of the slope preservation zone. The second request is pertaining to Section 17.36 I3B, provisions regarding non-conforming accessory structures to be able to reconstruct the existing decks in the same footprint. There's a few exhibits here. Number one is a staff report. Number two is the application. We also have three. We have a letter from the DNR, which was dated February 24th, 2026. And also there's an email that came from the town of Somerset. So that will be exhibit number 4. So give some background information here. Again, we talked about David Swanson's property at 1466 Pine Tree Lane. Looking at some features of the property, due to significant tree cover, the building is not visually conspicuous from either the midline of the river or 250 feet riverward of the ordinary high water mark. And that's significant because those are requirements in the ordinance. The existing dwelling is set back at its closest point 10 feet from the bluff line. Both the principal structure and the accessory structures are non-conforming to the minimum setback of 40 feet from the bluff line. The reconstructed expanded house will be no higher in elevation than the peak of the existing house. This is significant because reconstructing a non-conforming principal structure cannot be any higher than what's currently the height of the existing structure. So the house will add another level, so there will be 2 levels. So overall, the height of the structure by the mean sea level elevation will not be any higher for the reconstructed structure than what's existing on the property right now. The existing footprint of the dwelling is now at 1,350 square feet. The expansion will increase the total to 1,980 square feet, 1,980 square feet, which is still below the 2,000 square foot maximum that's allowed. So that's in compliance. Filling and grading will be required within 40 feet of the bluff line to remove the existing structure and reconstruct and expand the structure. The structure will not encroach any closer to the bluff line. The proposal will include expansion only to the east, which is landward of the river, with no expansion to the north, south, or west. Previous plans that were submitted by the Swansons did have some expansion that went into the slope preservation zone, into the northwest and south, or north and south. But that will not happen now. It will all be within the existing footprint and landward. The closest portion of the addition, the expanded part of the structure, will start at 34 feet of the bluff line. So in looking at that, if the setback is 40 feet and the additional start at 34 feet from the bluff line, then it's only a relaxation of 6 feet of the setback. And the applicant proposes to reconstruct the existing decks. I called it the deck system in here because there's different decks that go all the way around on the western and south side. And those will not increase in any square feet. They'll be exactly the square feet that they are now. Looking at an aerial photograph just for, excuse me, for identification of where this property lies, we can see the property outlined in blue right here. And looking to the very southeast of the photograph, you can see Highway 3564 coming north out of Holton and starting to turn east towards Somerset. Here's a closer aerial photo. So looking at what's going on around the property, there's neighboring residential homes surrounding this parcel. The property to the south is 10.58 acre residential parcel. The property to the north is a 7-acre residential parcel, and lining the property along the east are other residential properties. Here is an aerial photograph in leaf-off conditions. You can see the detached garage. You can see the existing house structure there. Here's an interesting couple of snips from the GIS maps. In looking at the house, the only thing I hate about these screens is they're not like the old paper screens where you could use a laser pointer. It won't show up on there, but if you can follow my cursor here, you can see that the house is in about the only place that's not the peach color, the burnt orange color, or the purple color. And that's the existing house in the location on the property. So again, looking at those past plans, expansion to the north or the west or the south, any expansion at all would make that expansion go into the slope preservation zone. And then looking, here's just a contour map just showing the significance of the slopes also due to the contours. I'll go back up here a minute. So looking at the legend here on the bottom of the page, all those slopes, the kind of peachy color and the burnt orange color, and that shows up red in the legend, but it's actually purple on the map, the way the colors come out. All that stuff that you look at that's colored like that is slope preservation zone. So any expansion to the east, north, or south would affect that slope preservation zone, just so you understand the colors you're looking at. Here's some photos that were taken of various areas of the site and the structure. Here's on the west side of the house, this first one. On the west side looking south, and the one on the right, it's kind of in the same location, just kind of canted over to be looking more southwest. And you can see the deck structures there and the condition that wood is in. It's weathered and needs replacement. Here's a couple other photos from the accessory building, which is the garage, the detached garage. Here's just another angle towards the river. Here's from upslope from both the house and the detached garage, just looking towards the river to give an idea of what's going on. And looking at this the photo on the right here, I wanted to highlight this area because almost everything you see here that's gravel is right now it's existing driveway and existing parking space, which we determined to be impervious surface. And so all this area, this is like on the northeast and north part of the house, All this gravel will be removed, and we'll get to that a little later, but I just wanted to show it to you in the photograph. So that impervious surface area will be removed. Couple other photos just taken looking up the driveway towards the pole shed, which is up the hill, and another one here just looking west from the accessory structure. Now, here are a couple photos that were submitted by the applicant. They're drone photos that he took from 250 feet out from the ordinary high water mark, which is a standard that we have to compare to in the ordinance. And as you can see here, the site, the structure is almost, if not completely, visually inconspicuous. And here's on the right is just another one higher in elevation, kind of looking down, and again, very inconspicuous on the visual structure. Here's a site plan that was provided by the applicant. I know the detail is really small, and so some of this will be enlarged in the next few slides. But looking at this river profile here, the river profile does not illustrate the mature hardwood trees that are along the bluff that are actually rendering the structure visually inconspicuous. The house detail illustrates the proposed additions and shows the extent of filling and grading, and also illustrates where the bluff preservation zone or the top of the bluff line is. And again, can't see it here, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Here's an enlarged area of this portion, which is the lower right part of the previous slide plan. So here's an enlarged version. There's a couple things I want to point out here. So we talk about reconstruction of the deck system, so you can see exactly where the existing deck is right now, all outlined in red here. So we got the deck, and we go back here on the west side, which is a porch deck, and then back to the deck that goes up and wraps around to the just very northwest corner of the house. So all that is existing now and will be replaced in the same exact location. The other thing we want to look at on this slide is the applicant had sent via email to me this blown up site plan and put these green lines on because I asked what would be the extents of the filling and grading areas. So he outlined that in green and he said this is a very conservative approach. He actually put in more in the green area than he will actually disturb. And those measurements are a 90 by 90 foot area, which equates to 8,100 square feet. And the reason I bring this up is an additional conditional use permit would be required if there was greater than 10,000 square feet of total disturbance. So this shows that we're actually significantly lower than that number. And then I wanted to point out that following the Board of Adjustment and DNR's actions, staff will work with the applicant through the land use permit process to work with the applicant on more detailed plans for stormwater infiltration, mitigation, and vegetation management on the site. Here's that profile we talked about a little bit a couple of slides ago. So this is just the side angle, if you will, like a cross section of how that sight line goes from 250 feet out from the river, hits the bluff line, and then goes through the house. And so looking at that blue line, the newly constructed and expanded structure will be no higher than what that blue line is on the map right now. Again, here's where I showed you in the photograph about the areas that would be reduced in actual impervious surface. And the applicant outlined this in green for us to show that this whole area in green is all stuff that's either gravel parking lot area or driveway, and that will all be removed to help reduce the whole impervious surface area on the property. As of writing of the staff report, we had not heard a comment from the town of St. Joseph. We subsequently did receive an email from the town. It's very short, and I'll make an exhibit, but I'll just read it to you. The board of the town of St. Joseph made the following motions on February 12, 2026. Regarding the St. Croix County, conditional use and variance for David Swanson, 1466 Pine Tree Lane, Holton, addition to house. Motion for St. Croix County to approve the CUP, conditional use permit, and variance for David Swanson at 1466 Pine Tree Lane, and then motion carried. Moving on to other agency review here. I'm not going to read through this whole history of what went on with the DNR. There was a lot of back and forth. The original site plans, when they did have expansion into the north and south going into the slope preservation zone, basically that was denied by the DNR. They did not want to see that happening, so they were not going to give consent for the variance. So a lot of things happened. After the meeting, Swanson had actually come to the board in March of 2025, and it was talked about here, and he actually withdrew his application. Since that time, there were a lot of back and forth. There were several plan changes that took place between the last hearing and today. And I'll let you read that. It's all on the record. So as of writing of the staff report on finalizing on February 18th, we did not receive comment from the DNR. On February 24th, we did receive a letter from Susan Vanden Langenberg from the DNR, who oversees these types of variances and oversees the Riverway and also Shoreland for counties in this side of the state of Wisconsin, working with our counties. So we did receive those comments. I don't know if the board had gotten a chance to read that. I don't really, I mean, I'll read it into the record if you want me to. Otherwise, if you've read it, you've seen the comments.
Perhaps you would summarize it for the people who aren't in this room, the folks who are going to be viewing this in the video record of the minutes of the meeting in future years and so on. Just a high-level summary of the contents would be great, Mr. Grayball.
Sure. I'll kind of hit the highlights here since the letter is part of the record. Yes, I'll do that. So it just talks about, again, background information, dear board members. It talks about, the location of the property, the size of the property located in the town of St. Joseph. And she goes to state, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with the county staff to discuss the site and proposal. We had met with her a few times via Teams meeting to go over the application and find out the kind of information that she wanted to see in this request. So concerning a conditional use permit application, below are two subsections that apply to filling and grading for this project. Her first point is filling and grading less than 10,000 square feet in slope preservation zones that do not directly face and do not directly drain to the river. If the applicant can show that the filling and grading for the proposed rain garden does not directly face the river and does not directly drain to the river, the department would support the conditional use permit. So the original plans, this latest plan set from Swanson, showed that there was going to be a rain garden sort of northwest of the house. He had designed it that way because the natural flow of the slopes would allow the water to go down, and before it hit a steeper area, that water would be captured. That area was identified to be slope preservation zone. So basically what the DNR is saying is they don't want to see that rain garden in the slope preservation zone. So if it's there, she's not going to support it. But if it can be moved, then she would support it. That's basically what she's saying with that regard, because according to her comment here, we cannot prove that it's outside slope preservation zone because that area was in slope preservation zone.
So is there a place on this lot that can be used as an alternative that will not drain to the river?
Yes. That would be accomplished by that area I showed you where the additional 2,172 feet of impervious surface would be removed. That would be immediately north of the existing structure. That area is flat, and that can be used for the stormwater infiltration. I verified that Susan Van den Langenberg from the DNR was okay with that. She said yes, and I subsequently had a conversation with Mr. Swanson, and he said that would be appropriate for him too. So moving on to our second point here, filling and grading within 40 feet of the slope preservation zone. The department would support the relocation of the rain garden so that all filling and grading would be located outside the slope preservation area. If this alternative rain garden location was proposed, then the applicant would not be required to show the area does not directly face the river and does not drain directly to the river. It seemed kind of like the same point she's making, but she said it in a way, two different ways.
And the solution is the same, to place it
Correct.
northwest rather than, no, I mean, place it northeast rather than northwest.
Correct, in an area that is outside the slope preservation zone, correct.
Got it.
Yep. Moving on to our comments on the variance request. As the board reviews the variance request, please keep in mind the applicant has the burden of proving that their application meets all three of the statutory requirements for the granting of each variance. And then she goes on talking about this, Wisconsin Supreme Court has made it clear that proof of unnecessary hardship by itself does not entitle an applicant to a variance. All three of the statutory variance criteria must be satisfied. And then those are unique physical limitations, no harm to the public interest, and unnecessary hardship. Moving past those boilerplate language areas, she goes on to say the department is not opposed to the board granting the requested variances, provided the Board of Adjustment finds the applicant has met the burden of proof that the request meets all the statutory requirements. If the board finds that the above criteria have been met, the department provides consent, which is significant, because if they're providing consent, we have to have consent for the variances from the DNR on this. So if the board finds the above criteria has been met, the department provides consent to the granting of the variances. The department also recommends that a condition be placed such that best management practices shall be utilized during construction to prevent erosion and sedimentation.
And
she
that
just goes on to say
presumably would be covered in your normal staff review by the staff issued permit. That's where you cover the construction standards and
Correct.
erosion control
Yep,
and so on.
erosion control,
We don't have
stormwater.
to deal with
Yep.
that. All
Correct.
right.
Yep. Let's see here. So that basically ends the presentation at this point. The next couple slides are just the applicable statutes and criteria. It's all boilerplate, things that we do with conditional uses and variances. And also the last slide is just a draft decision document that includes the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended action on this item will be presented to the Board of Adjustment today, February 26th at the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Grayball. So next, we'll have an opportunity for board members to ask Mr. Grayball questions and follow up to his presentation. Then I'll call for people in the room who might want to speak in favor of the application. At that stage, often the applicants choose to speak up, particularly to respond to any topics that might have come up earlier in the meeting based on questions from board members, whatever the applicant wants to say. And if the applicant has brought engineers or architects or attorneys or whatever, they would speak at that stage. And then I'll call on anybody in the room who wants to speak in opposition to the grant of the variances and conditional use permit. And lastly, anybody who is neither for nor against particularly, but has some statement to make or question to put into the mix that they think might help the board to make the best possible decision. So that gives everybody in the room an opportunity to see where we're going. And I'll ask now if board members have questions they want to direct to Mr. Grayball.
Can you roll back to the detailed picture? Yeah, that one right there, okay.
Yes.
It looks like the old house is kind of grayscaled around the red, is that correct?
Yes, it has the sort of gray, like hash marks
Yeah,
that
okay.
define the existing structure.
Okay,
And the
so,
width of the structure at that point is 24 feet.
okay, so they are going to increase the size of the house, but it's all going to go away from the river.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if they take that gravel driveway out, where will the new garage go? In that red square to the left then? Or to the right, I mean?
Yeah, that's an existing garage right now. So, yeah, that's going to remain unchanged. And then I also wanted to add that the area that the house is being expanded is currently impervious surface. So in enlarging that structure, they will not be creating any additional impervious surface.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay.
While we're on
Yes.
While we're on that slide 16 there, if I understood the presentation, this proposed new house encroaches only 6 feet into the 40-foot setback zone. Is that right, Mr. Grable?
Correct.
Now, looking at slide 16, I don't see why the house couldn't be moved to the east 6 feet and then be out of that zone entirely. What am I missing? Is there some, are they planning to, no, they're not planning to reuse the foundation in any significant way. They're taking down the whole house and building a whole new one, as I understand it. So why not move over 6 feet and meet the 40-foot setback criterion?
I mean, it's something that could be discussed, but again, if we're pushing it back, we're going to disturb
Driveway.
potentially driveway. Yeah.
Where is the well and where is the septic facilities? Are they a factor, or they're not being replaced, I assume?
Yes, the well will have to be replaced because the well is on the east side of the house now, and that expansion will require that well to be moved.
Okay, so if it's going to be moved, it can be moved to a place that doesn't matter if the house is moved 6 more feet. How about the septic?
The septic is not directly to the east, it's to the northeast of the house,
Is the tank itself?
northeast or northwest. We don't have any plans because the septic's very old. We don't have any records of what it actually is.
I see. But whatever it is, it's going to be reused, as you're saying.
Well, I have discussed that with Mr. Swanson. Since we don't have records and we don't know what's there and we don't know the sizing, there are basically a couple of options. They can hire somebody, and if they can go out and that they can prove that the sizing is adequate for the structure and it's all compliant, the tanks, the drain field, everything is compliant, then they would be allowed to get a reconnection permit, a county reconnection permit. If we can't prove any of that, then we don't know if it's valid or not, or whether the sizing's appropriate or not, and in that case, the system would have to be replaced in a compliant location.
Is the number of bedrooms being increased with this expansion from 1,350 square feet to 1,980 square feet?
I'll let the applicant answer that. When I worked with him, he had given us a basic outline of where the expansion was going to be, and I asked if he had any more detailed house plans, and he said, due to all the reiterations and changes, he's spent so much trying to get to this point that he hasn't finalized the actual floor layout from when I talked to him a few weeks ago on that.
If I remember, and you, of course, for many years have been one of our principal septic system inspectors, but if I remember right, the number of bedrooms often determines the size of the septic system.
Correct.
So if there's an increase in bedrooms, that might drive the need for a new one, as well as the possibility that the old one is simply obsolete.
It could, yes.
Yeah, maybe. Thanks for that. Board members, questions? Otherwise, I've got another one or two. Hopefully, we'll hear from the Swansons and get some more clarification. If I understand, the height of the structure is not to be increased, but the face of it facing the river will be bigger in the sense that that a Volkswagen and a full-size Ford might have the same height, but the Ford full-size has a much bigger face. Its area projection is bigger than the Volkswagens. Is that what's happening here with this increase in the second level?
So if you look at this photo here, I
Yes.
mean, we actually have 2 stories on part of the house here.
Right.
And so there could be some on this side, same height, but wider in that area, perhaps. Yep,
As you understand it, there'll be just one roof line in the new structure, right?
correct.
It'll all be the same height.
Yes.
Yeah, so the face presented to the river will be bigger. It would seem to follow. Okay. That's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just mentioning it. Certainly, the reduction of impervious surface is a genuine gain in this circumstance.
Yep, that's a win.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to show you too.
Well, good.
Once I brought this back up here and reading through Susan's letter, I just wanted to point out on the site plan here. I know it's really hard to see here. So if you can see my cursor bobbling around on the screen here, there was this red silt fenced area that came down and went sort of north here and then went a little bit northwest. Right in this location right here, that's where that infiltration basin or that rain garden was going to be located. Again, he was going to use the natural contours to get to it, but the DNR kind of put the kibosh on it.
Yeah, I think, for those who might be relying on a transcript, if this case ever requires a transcript, it's picture number 15 or page number 15 in our presentation, and the area that Mr. Graybaugh's been pointing out is next to the north edge of the lot, northeast of the corner, northwest of the northwest corner of the house. Guess the record will be clear on that. All right, anything more of Mr. Graybaugh? All right. Anybody wish to speak in favor? The Swansons perhaps and others? Please identify yourself and then tell us what you think we ought to know.
All right. Well, good morning, board members. Thanks for your time this morning. Dave Swanson. You want me to address some of the questions you had right out of the gates, or would you like to re-ask certain ones?
It's up to you. Your order of presentation is entirely in your control.
So I'll start with the 6 feet moving east further to get fully out of the bluff line. It certainly is an option. However, I think it's actually going to cause more disturbance if we do that. I'm trying to find a photo here to kind of call out where that is.
There, that one on the
Yeah.
left, and that's page number 12.
So as you can see here, essentially if I'm at the top of the lot staring at the river, it essentially grades towards the river the entire way. and then ultimately getting very steep at the bluff line down. Any way we move east is just further excavation that we have to dig through. So could we move the 6 feet east? Yes, but that's 6 feet of solid earth that we have to dig out to move, essentially move the house over there. In the original applications, what our goal was, when we purchased this property 3 years ago, I had called the county and I said, look, we want to, the house is in disrepair, we need to do some things. We want to do the least impactful thing, so what are the ideas that we have? The county's been fantastic to work with. We had some substantial limitations, and you can kind of see it in this photo too. There's essentially a big retaining wall here that's holding the earth back. The well sits about right here on that plan. So we didn't want to have to do further excavation, so to the north, it was essentially fairly flat with a mild grade. It was like between 10 and 12%, as you can see in that heat map. In this contour here, where this was the first logical place that we could expand without a lot of, disruption to the environment. DNR said no to that, and so they said move east. I'm like, well, move east, are you okay with that? Like, we're gonna have to relocate the well to do that, which is obviously, as you all know, a pretty big cost to do that, as well as still excavate some of the additional earth there out. She said, we would prefer that as long as you aren't increasing the footprint to the north or south. So we followed kind of the conversations with the county, DNR, to produce this most recent plan that we've sent. If the county desires us to move it further to the east, it is an option. It's just gonna be a lot more excavation, and in the interest of like the environment there, I don't know that that's the better, but if that's the desire of the county, it is certainly an option. Follow-up questions on that?
Yeah, well, speaking for myself, I wanted to think for a moment about why does the county have this 40-foot setback? What's the reason behind it? And, if it's important, why is it important? And I guess it's important because of the obvious things like rainwater runoff from the roofs and the decks. Those, of course, will be dealt with here. You'll design roof gutters and capture that water up to, I think you're using the 25-year storm for your design criteria. Of course, not every storm will stay within the 25-year limit, so once in a while there'll be a bigger storm, and then water may run off and run straight down, causing erosion, and so that's one of the reasons. Then another reason for the setback is the visibility from the water, this being a national scenic riverway. There's a priority given to the view from the water towards the homes, which can be very difficult for us homeowners to internalize. Why isn't it our view of the river just as important as some tourists' view of our land? Well, it's because the people who come to the St. Croix River from Maine or California get special treatment because it's a national park. All right, so there's the view. Now you've mapped that for us, and and if we move 6 feet further to the east, there'll be just a little less frontal area, but not much, but a little less shown towards the river. And then I suppose that setback has to do with things like the possibility of having lawn-type space or some kind of space that causes more natural infiltration of water when there's more area for it to soak in before it runs down the face of a steep slope. What else? Well, maybe there's the risk of kids falling off and rolling down the hill. Do you suppose the county board of supervisors thought about that when they said there should be a 40-foot setback? I don't know. Were they thinking about beach balls being kicked down? You see, when they do these ordinances, and I've been there, believe me, I was on the county board when we made one of the revisions of the ordinances, and we tried to articulate why why are we setting up these requirements, but they sometimes aren't quite as specific as we'd like when it comes to a case like this, where we're trying to figure out, can we still meet the goals of that part of the ordinance and yet make an exception to the specific distance that's called out in the ordinance?
If I may.
Yeah,
chime in,
go ahead.
I think one thing
Respond.
that's interesting has been puzzling me on these particular ordinances relative to the setback from bluff line. Being that it's 12% grade to define bluff line, that bluff line occurs essentially in 7 different parts of my property, right? I mean, 12% is a very minor grade. While it's good for a runoff standpoint, if you look at these 2 properties, this is my property here and obviously this one to the north, we have a house here that's right next to the river, very close. The benefit on his property is it is extremely flat for this area here, which allowed to build. So distance to the river was not actually accounted for in that 40-foot setback. It's just that 12% grade. Whereas if you look at our property, we're probably double, maybe almost 3 times further back from the river, over 260, 70 feet, I think it is, from the actual edge of the river embankment. It's just because I have this very slow, very steep up and then very slow grade up, as you saw within the other elevations plans here.
Yeah.
And that's why it's, like, this property is extremely hard to figure out what the right answer is, because there's a trade-off with pretty much anything we do. Now, I grew up in this valley. My family's been in the valley since the 1800s, so the way that this river is protected is valuable, and I commend everybody for doing it. I think we should still do it, which is why we're trying to balance this as best we can to have no additional adverse reaction to any views from the river. And as you saw from that photo, you basically can't see the house at all from the river with leaf on. Further, just expanding to the east as we are maintains the existing lower grade site, and essentially the new edge of the house on the eastern edge essentially just lines up with the existing retaining wall, which means very limited overall excavation of existing soils that are there. So we thought this was the best overall compromise to try and find something that was amicable to everybody involved as a building location, especially after the feedback from the DNR. It's just a tough spot to build.
Yeah, I would note, so as to make sure it's in the record, one of the criteria that we have to work with is that the financial aspect must never be the primary reason we grant a variance. It's in the boilerplate there. I'm sure everybody saw it. So it's not that we can't consider keeping your costs in line, or below a certain threshold, but it certainly can never be the deciding factor for us. You're disturbing less than 10,000 square feet in total, and if you go further east and you end up moving that retaining wall, that's not going to change that either. Okay. Unless board members want to follow up in this line, will. Yeah, Dave.
Just my personal opinion, we're talking about 6 feet, and I think we're splitting hairs here. I tend to agree with the statement that we'd probably be causing more disturbance by requiring a move of 6 feet, but that's just my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Is there just a crawl space under the house, or is it a full basement?
There's no basement today. It's a crawl space today.
Okay.
But you're going to build a basement, I take it?
No, I guess. The plan right now is, so it's a 2-story house today. When all is said and done, it will remain a 2-story house. What we have to do, however, if we're shifting east, right, with that slope coming in, the first story right now is where you enter, right? And then there's a second story above. When we shift east, that easternmost wall is going to be in the hillside, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to change the entrance to the second story and then go down, and then it'll be kind of a 3-story walkout. So kind of a basement, but still a 2-story home. The basement would be the lower level. And the only reason we're changing that is because we're shifting east into the hillside, that easternmost wall now becomes the back retaining wall of the house because of the hillside there. Does that answer your question?
Well, you know, if you moved to 6 feet, you wouldn't need that variance at all. Would you still need the variance for the deck?
Yes, I think I'd need both, because the
But
thing with
but
the
not as
variance that
much,
we're,
huh?
the thing we're talking about with the variance, and keep me honest here, to the county, but, let me find that cross-section again. We'd still be reconstructing the existing home, right? Which is in the 40-foot setback. So all we're talking about here is if we move it 6 feet, we're only moving this portion, which is the new addition, outside of the 40-foot setback. But the remainder of the existing home, so let's say we shifted the whole thing east. This corner is approximately today 10 feet. That corner would then be 16 feet. So we're still in the same exact position we are with encroachment in the bluff zone. We're just shaving off 6 feet from the existing house and doing a ton of additional excavation and soil removal to do
Would
that.
you show where the 40-foot, which one is that? The blue line? Is that the 40-foot?
Yeah, so and
The
it's,
bluff line?
yeah, top of bluff is this line here. And it goes around all the way down over to here and loops around.
And you said that the northwest corner of the house,
This one here, yep.
both existing and proposed, is 10 feet from that blue line?
Correct.
So moving it over 6 feet would make it 16 feet from that line.
Correct. And the comment about the 34 feet is if we, as was pointed out
Is over
earlier.
there.
Yeah,
Ah,
this is the
only the
existing,
new part.
correct. So the addition is only encroaching 6 feet into the top of the bluff preservation zone.
Oh,
So
I
moving
see.
it, we're still going to be kind of,
I misunderstood you. Mhm. And the deck is how wide at that northwest corner?
right here, it's 13 feet. And I'm not changing the size or scope of the deck at all. They're just rebuilding them as exactly as they are.
So if you moved the whole house 6 feet to the east, the deck would also no longer touch the 40-foot setback line. It would be roughly 3 feet inside that blue line. Am I following that right?
Yeah, correct. And if we go back to that contour map here, kind of see
It's
what we're,
probably number 16. That one.
yeah, so right now you've got the deck kind of right here. I mean, yeah, it'd be moving it roughly 3 feet. Yeah, you're right. But the trade-off to that is digging out a substantial part of the hillside. Cost of that, agreed, excavation isn't extremely cost prohibitive. It's more of, is the county wanting me to disturb that much natural soil just to gain a couple extra feet? If so, that's what we'll do, but
Yeah. You are planning to put in a basement where there is not now a basement.
not really, because the basement level is going to be pretty much at the same elevation as the existing first story. The difference is going to be because we shifted east, I can't have siding on that. It's going to go into the hillside, so I have to change it from a stick frame sided wall into like an ICF wall or concrete wall because it's up against the earth.
One of the other concepts that we work within is sometimes called the minimal relief, that when a variance is granted, it should be the minimum necessary to accomplish the homeowner's purpose. Rather than, rather than going exactly to the bluff line, getting some distance back from the bluff line is lesser relief or minimal relief if it's feasible to do. I'm not sure I'm explaining that very well. I know
The other thing
the
that
old
we
members
lose
understand
here,
it. Do you
and
need
it's,
me to clarify that a little bit? Okay, if an applicant is asking for a waiver of 10 feet, but they could get by with a waiver of 5 feet, by requesting minimal relief, 5 feet instead of 10, then it makes sense that we would try to do that. So, for example, another thing, an applicant comes in and they're asking for 7 different variances, one from the side yards, one from the front yard, one from the slope, on and on and on. But if something could be found that will still accomplish the basic purpose, but with only 3 variances, only the side yard, the front yard, and the slope, and not have to have the other variances implicated at all, it's usually thought preferable to have a fewer number of variances. All other things being equal. And every case is different, you know. I'm sorry, did I cut you off when
No,
you were
sir.
saying something?
The only other thing I was gonna say is shifting east so this is kind of driveway right now, it's existing driveway. And as you saw on the hillside here, these photos, I swear I'll get them in order here sooner or later.
That picture?
There we go. So the other thing, if we shift east, is this is the existing driveway here, and that was planned to be retained as a parking spot, and this photo doesn't do it quite the justice, but this is a pretty substantial grade here coming down. So moving east does give me a little bit of worry for the winter, just with cars coming down the driveway there, and any ice potential, because there's not a way to kind of avoid hitting the house, if you will, if we do shift too far east. I guess my preference, if the board would allow it, would be to keep the bulk of the property where it is, just because that's also what the DNR had approved, and retain that parking spot here for the cars. However, having said that, if the board does require that that's what I do to move to the east, that's what we will do.
Okay, you were showing us number 12. Now you're showing us number 16. Could you use the cursor to show what is available as driveway already? Where is the driveway now?
So these red lines coming in were anticipated being the driveway here. And if we shift it, this is 10 feet right here as a reference. So if we shift this over 6, the driveway kind of goes away entirely and you're just parking on a hill with no flat surface, which is what this area would be here. Can it be used? Yes. Is it functional? Not as much, for sure.
What is that 10 by 14 square on the east
This is just the
edge?
front entranceway, just a covered patio to walk, not even patio, just like a vestibule to walk into the front house.
Enclosed?
No,
An
Just
open, it's an open porch?
Yeah.
Sort of? Is that critical to your design?
and having a cover over the front door, yeah, sort of,
But if it were 3 feet, would that suffice?
potentially.
Well, maybe I've taken you astray. Why don't you
all
go ahead
good.
with the rest of your presentation?
Yeah, you also had some questions about the septic. We have had the septic inspected. It was done by Apostle Septic out of Somerset. It was found to be in working condition. I did agree with the county, however, though, we are adding one bedroom to the home when we reconstruct it. So we will have it inspected again, validate that the flow rates do conform to the number of bedrooms we have, and it is in compliance, and then we'll go through the recertification process. Or we'll have to work together to put in a new septic if that's the requirement. We are already moving the well, which is unfortunate because the well's in good shape and just replaced. And we will have to cap and seal the existing well in order to move east as required by the DNR. Is there any other questions I missed from you all addressing?
Where is the existing septic system and drain field?
It's kind of right up in this area below this TW on slide 16 in the north, or the top right corner. I'll have to run some measurements. Moving further east may encroach on the setback for the septic. I know we are not in the setback requirements with this plan. I'll have to double check moving east if we do encroach on that or not, if that's the desire.
Is that where the drain field is, or is that where the tank is at?
The tank is there and the drain field is further beyond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roughly where would the new well be, have to be drilled in?
I've talked to Cromer's Pump Service, who's a well driller in town. There are a couple of options that can do it. I haven't gone that far just to figure out where we can put it yet due to the number of revisions we've had with this. I was hoping to try and get some clarification and approval from the board on foundation and site plan. And then I'll work with the county to determine an appropriate spot for it. Ideally, if I can do it, I'd like to put it over here further away from the septic, which seems feasible. Oh, yeah, down here, kind of right in this area over here. It'd be easier to service with their trucks. It's an easier place to drill. There's an acceptable, good driveway there to drive up and work off of, and it adds distance from septic.
Would that, if it came to a 6-foot move, would that kind of mess up that too? You would have to.
It will, yeah. I mean, to the chair's comment, I understand that financial implications can't be accounted for here, but I mean, just moving the well alone is an additional $35,000 because we had to move to the east, which I understand. Any more of this is just going to be more financial burden on him.
$5,000 that you already have to incur, do you mean?
No, agreed, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the wall that is shown on here on the north, is that an existing wall, or would that be a new retaining wall?
Be kind of a shift, right? Because right now on, which way was it? Was it up? Yep. Right now, this picture is kind of the end of that, right? You come down the driveway and these are the parking spots here. There's one there and a couple over here. When we move into the hillside, the idea is that excavation is going to go up and we'll put the retaining wall here, kind of right in this picture, which is on slide 12, to hold back the earth and avoid any additional erosion. That wall is already kind of existing right here on the front of the home. It's all big boulder wall. So when we move the house east, it'll effectively land where that boulder wall is. It won't be needed a boulder wall because it'll be a block wall for the foundation of the home. So the idea was to just shift those boulders around, level it out there, create the retention of the soils with stronger retaining wall there to avoid any runoff, and then direct the additional rainwater down towards the retention pond, which we've talked about placement of already.
You have any idea what the topography's at underneath the organic layer? Is it into bedrock fairly close to the surface, or?
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of digging here by any means yet, but anywhere we've tried to plant, we find rock pretty fast. So moving 6 feet east is going to require some pretty heavy excavation to get through the limestone and sandstone layers. I would imagine. That's an assumption.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, just appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, stand by. We'll see if anybody else has comments or questions. Please. And does your lady want to speak? Equal opportunity speaking here. All are welcome. Is there anybody else in the room who wants to speak in favor of this application? Anybody who really wanted to speak against the application? Anything at all regarding the Swanson application that we're talking about here? We are at the stage where there is no more testimony being offered, no more documents being offered. Mr. Grayball. Yeah, you have some thoughts for us?
Sure. If
Go
I could
ahead.
just further clarify a couple things.
Good.
I didn't want to confuse the board with the whole 34 feet thing. That came about when we were having discussions with the DNR person, Vanden Langenberg. She wanted to know that and call that out specifically as far where the expanded portion would start in relation to that bluff line setbacks. That's why I put it in there. Sorry if I confused you. I was trying to make it clear. But that came specifically of something she wanted to be addressed. So that's why I put it in the staff report. Also about that vestibule area that you talked about on slide, I believe it was 16. Let's see here. Yes, it would be 16. So that portion, you know, if we look at, if this northwest corner of the house is 10 feet from the bluff line, and then this hatched area of where the existing house is, that's our 24. So that gives us our 34 from there. So only 6 feet from that is the 40. So anything outside that is in a complying location regarding the 40-foot setback. I just want to clarify that for the record. And then about the retaining wall that was asked about, the first plan that we worked with when Mr. Swanson submitted his latest set of plans in early January, it showed well, actually it was before that. We had a meeting at the end of December, I believe, prior to his submittal of the items. That retaining wall, just to try and work with the topography, was actually in the slope preservation zone, and we talked about it amongst ourselves, and he was quick to change those plans to make sure that that retaining wall would be outside that slope preservation zone, so that it wouldn't be an issue with the requirements in that way. That's all I have.
You've been thinking about this much longer than the board has, since we saw it, or, you know, we started to do our homework this week and saw the presentation today. Have you been thinking about points 1, 2, and 3 on that we have to make findings on with regard to granting of a variance? And now I'm looking at the worksheet, everybody.
So as a part of the decision document?
No, no, not that exactly, but have you thought about what it is that this hardship is due to the physical limitations of the property rather than the circumstances of the applicant? Because I'm thinking, I'm not sure this is a request for minimal relief, for one thing. The circumstances, the applicant desiring to have a 10-foot vestibule, to not have the extra excavation, albeit into limestone, potentially, relocating the driveway to accommodate, you know, moving further to the east. Is that due to physical limitations of the property, or is it the preferences of the applicant?
Well, I think a lot of it is still due to limitations of the property, because if we're moving that driveway, if we're gonna take that thing, we're gonna take that impervious surface, and now we're gonna expand it going to the east, we're disturbing more slope preservation zone. So it becomes sort of a balancing act for which is better, which is worse, does it make a difference either way? It's kind of like, we're gonna have less disturbance if we do it according to these plans, we're gonna create more disturbance if we change those plans, you know, to get this extra 6 feet back or whatever is being requested or thought about by the board. Does that make sense?
That's the way you thought about it?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about harm to the public interest? Have you thought about that?
Yep. I really don't see any harm to the public interest. Again, if we're thinking about looking visually from 250 feet from the ordinary high water mark of the river, looking at the site or at the midline, either one, both are rendering the structure visually inconspicuous right now. As far as the, you know, the newly reconstructed and expanded structure is going to be no higher than what it is right now. So if we're sitting back there and we can't even make out the structure through the trees now, even if we added that extra face that you had brought up as a part of your comments, still that structure is being rendered as visually conspicuous with all the tree cover. From the adjoining properties, again, those other houses are pretty far away. I didn't see where that was going to be any more impactful to what they were going to be seeing from their properties. You know, in my limited view of, you know, looking at aerial photographs and locations of other residences.
I tried to discuss earlier the reasons for the setback and apply them to this situation. Overall, it seems ironic that a 7-acre site doesn't have one location that meets the ordinance entirely. I mean, we deal with 1-acre sites or even smaller in the Riverway from time to time. And there, we find that unique situation of a hardship, and it seems, as I say, ironic that a lot this large has only one location for a 2,000 square, little less than 2,000 square foot footprint. Just say that for the record. And the unnecessary hardship, I suppose you would articulate that as saying that not being able to have a 2,000 or a 1980 square foot residence starting from the corner closest to the river is an unnecessary hardship, huh? Would you say it some other way? I take it that's the way you'd articulate point number 3 if you were sitting in my chair.
Correct. And to your point a little bit, so if we look at other areas on the lot, sure, we could create something somewhere else on the lot, but now is that going to make things more visually conspicuous by moving it up the slope? Still dealing with slope preservation zone to make that happen, having more disturbance, disturbing things that are natural right now. And with that, if we're going to be reconstructing a house in a location like that, you're also looking at removing trees, which help screen things. So you're basically going in and now you're having to cut out a whole bunch of trees in order to create that building pad and all the other things that have to be there as a part of the reconstruction.
Yeah, thank you. Board members, anything that you want to get into the record at this stage before I close the hearing?
I'll just say, as I viewed the site, he's correct, it doesn't really show the drop, and so they've got some issues they're fighting, I can see that. I mean, it does drop, so I understand, in my opinion, what they're saying.
You're speaking to the uniqueness of the challenge of this particular piece of land?
And I don't see the reason to move it any further. If we've got a natural drainage there now for that 6 feet, let's leave it without disturbing the soil anymore. I don't want to see any more excavation.
Okay, I'm not, I was, perhaps I misled you all. I wasn't quite to the stage of trying to find out where you stand on it. I was kind of wondering, was there more evidence you wanted by questioning any of our witnesses? Yeah, okay. That being said, it's 9:43. I'm going to declare the hearing closed now, so we will not take any more testimony. And we will not receive any more documents. We'll move ahead towards a decision based on what we've got before us and already in the record. I'm getting a sense that we probably have enough votes here for a vote in favor. It would seem to me a sensible way would be to ask for the remaining 2 to kind of well, I don't know. It may not be fair to Mrs. Schneider, for this is her maiden voyage. I won't put you on the spot then today, or at least in this one, maybe in the next case. Joe, do you want to say anything about the 3 points that are necessary to make a finding for a variance?
Well, the one point that I thought of was, you talked about the 40-foot setback, and we brought out the idea that his house is several hundred feet from the river. So, that, to me, that 40-foot setback is kind of a moot point in that he's got so much distance between his house and the river. So I would tend to let this one go as presented.
So if, for instance, we're thinking about water running off in that 100-year storm, that breaches the gutter system and overtops the man-made structures for dealing with surface water, it's got a long slope in which to soak in, hopefully before it starts sloughing off and falling off like California. If we're thinking about little kids and their beach balls, they've got a long area to get caught before they would affect anybody else. Yeah. I'm being a bit facetious, which probably doesn't read well in a transcribed record, but so be it. Given that, are you ready to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the variance and the, what's the other word I'm looking for?
2 variances and a conditional
And the
use.
conditional use as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, now let's, we've got a motion, we got a second. Let's see if have you prepared something, Mr. Graybow, that is consistent with granting the variances and the conditional use permit?
Yes, I have.
And you're putting it up on the
Yep,
screen?
bring it up on screen right now.
So with your permission, board members, we'll look at this. If we feel like we want to change some words here or there, we'll do that, and that'll be incorporated in the motion when we vote for it. Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay. Please lead us through it then, as you see fit, Mr. Graybaugh, and we'll read along with you. Do you have written ones too? No.
Excuse me?
You didn't also print it out, did
Yes,
you?
I did.
Oh, all right. For me, that works well, because then I can annotate it if there's anything I want to suggest and edit on. And if this eventually becomes our decision, it'll be the thing that I sign.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, great job. Have you given a copy to the applicant, if you would, please? Let the record show that a copy was just given to the applicants. It's a 3-page document, and we'll get acquainted with it now and see if we want to make it, with any edits that are appropriate, and make it the decision of the board. Okay, take us through it, please, Mr. Graybaugh.
Sure. So I'm not going to read through all the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Basically, it's all the stuff we've talked about or mentioned probably 2, 3, 4 times throughout it. Location at 1466 Pine Tree Lane, 7.15 acre parcel, visually inconspicuous from the midline, or 250 feet from the ordinary high. Talking about the setback. Next one talks about the overall height of the structure. We've discussed that. Existing footprint and what the end footprint will be under the 2,000 square feet, which is the square foot maximum that would be allowed. Filling and grading within the bluff line, not getting any closer to the bluff line with either the house or the deck system. Moving on. Let's see here. As part of the decision document, I did incorporate the Town of St. Joseph's comments, and the date with that, on February 18th, we received that email. Moving on, let's see, talking about the DNR. Previous, their previous thoughts and comments, and then looking at number 13 here, the updated comments that we received just Tuesday, February 24th, so I incorporated all that we received that letter. And then I went on to go through some of the provisions requiring granting a variance. If you want me to read through them, I can, or if you just want to read them yourself. Sure. So did you want to go through them line by line, like, we've, starting at 15A there and going through each one of those? Do you want to discuss all of them, or do you just want to bring up the one that you would like to have changed?
Oh, thank you, thank you. Let us read here. Let's read, well, give us a moment to study from
Sure.
15A on.
Yep.
It looks to me like if we were going to modify anything, it would be in 15A, B, and C, which are the
Okay,
sort of the correlatives of the, the three things that are on our thought-provoking worksheet.
okay.
Anybody have anything? Otherwise, as usual, I do. Okay, so in 15A, the house and decks are in need of repair and replacement, no change. This request allows for replacement and expansion of a non-conforming principal structure, a house, and reconstruction of an accessory structure, the deck system, with the same footprint. The expansion of the house is not going to be in the same footprint, but it is going to be landward, and it seems to me we need to work that in somehow. The thought being that, as we've suggested earlier, it is an unnecessary hardship not to be able to have a essentially 2,000 square foot house in this area, in this county. So let's see, reconstruction of an accessory within the same footprint. So expansion of a non-conforming principal structure house, I would suggest an insert right there that says landward.
Yep, if you want to check out.
Oh, you already did it.
Mr.
good
Cheezit
for
had
you.
already typed some stuff in as you were talking. Mm-hmm. So there's what he added. The expansion of the house will not be in the same footprint, but the expansion will be landward.
Good, good. Anybody else, everybody comfortable with that? Okay. I think we could also say, let's see if this is the place to say it, or the next, I think in B might be a place to get in the idea that moving the structure further east would have detrimental impacts. That's not a very elegant way of saying it, but well, let's see, you've already said something very much like it above it. Reconstruction, expansion, but directly to the east would impact. Oh, yeah, okay, it's a different concept. That works for me. Does it work for the rest of you? Good. Martian mind melt going on here? Thank you, Mr. Gray. Is that the way you would have said it too, Julie? Oh, okay, all right. And I think you made a good point in number C. The structures would not only be visually inconspicuous from the river, but from the neighbors as well, which goes, to the public interest aspect. Neighbors and maybe neighbors and street, because this is a long ways from Pine Tree Lane. Yeah, neighboring public and private viewers, some words like that. I think that captured it to my satisfaction. How about the rest of you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, okay. So now if, with the consent of the mover and the seconder, is this appropriate and consistent with the motion that you made?
Affirmative, yes.
Yes.
All right. Now I think that unless there's further debate or discussion here, we're ready for a vote. Okay, all in favor, vote aye.
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 Opposed, vote nay. The vote is unanimously then to do it in this fashion, and if you have it ready, I'll sign it, or when you have it ready, I'll sign it, Mr. Graybaum.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Board
you.
Chair and Board.
Well, thank you for a really great presentation of an extremely complex application.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody need a break? It's 9:57 before we launch into the next one. I think we can go ahead. Are you doing this one, Mr. Cheeset?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Give me 1 second to pull it up here. Okay, so our next applicant today is the Twin Springs Trust, and they are requesting a variance to the Lower St. Croix Riverway Overlay District to the St. Croix County Ordinance, Section 17.36 I2E, to construct an addition to a non-conforming principal structure on a 1.17 acre property located at 1502 Twin Springs Road. And the parcel numbers affected are 032-2082-80-000 and 032-2082-90-000. It is in the town of Somerset. The county has provided a Class 2 hearing notice in the official paper, which is the Star Observer, for this hearing, and we also notified all the adjoining property owners within 300 feet. So some background on the applicant is the applicant has applied for a variance to expand a non-conforming principal structure within that overlay district of the St. Croix. The principal structure addition is approximately 4.8 feet wide by 40 feet long, which will total about 192 square feet in size. The proposed add-on to the house is proposed to be utilized as a hallway to connect the current dwelling living space area to the existing attached garage, and it would serve as also a dog run for the applicant. And also by adding on this hallway, they are able to make the dwelling structure more accessible for ADA standards, and especially during the winter months when there's snow and ice present. The add-on is on the landward side of the river, so it is not going to be visible from the St. Croix River, and it will be minimally changed from the view of the actual street or the road, Twin Springs Road. The existing dwelling is approximately 3,115 square feet in size, so that's the dwelling and the garage combined. The project is going over existing impervious surface, so that would be, and to offset some of the water runoff, they're looking at changing 370 square feet of existing pavement to a permeable paver kind of surface to account for that runoff. They are also proposing to address the water runoff by installing a rain garden, which would be sized to accommodate a 25-year storm event in the county here, which is 4.7 inches of rain. There is currently an overflow pipe that goes over the bank. The current applicants didn't install that pipe, but that is where the water runoff is currently being directed. And we believe that that pipe was probably put in when the house was constructed back in 1972. So here's an aerial map of the house site. You can see that the house kind of straddles both lots. You can see that it does have an attached garage right here as well. The property is zoned R2. A lot of the land around it is zoned conservancy, and a lot of that land is owned by the National Park Service. The parcels here highlighted in green, the applicant also owns. Here's a zoomed in aerial image of the current home and the attached garage. You can see the driveway here coming in. The proposed expansion would come out 4.8 feet and it would extend across the front side of that garage. That point right here where the mouse is at 39.2 feet from the bluff. So the variance that they're needing is to the 40-foot bluff line, and they only are off by 0.8 of a foot. So it's very minimal. And they're proposing 4.8 feet wide, so the other 4 feet that they're wanting to add on, and that would be allowed underneath the ordinance without the variance. The bright red here, that is the slopes over 25%. You can see that it is fairly close to the bluff line. There's also not a lot of room in that for the expansion to be on the backside here because the road needs a 50-foot right-of-way setback from the road here. So there's not a lot of opportunity to expand towards the road. So here is just a better site plan with everything that is proposed. They've already got some infiltration trenches in place. Again, that expansion would come 4.8 feet out here to the south, and then it would extend to the east 40 feet. So it would come all the way across the front side of that garage. And that is what's shown here on this image. So you can see the hashed area here. That is the proposed expansion area. The rain garden being proposed here would use the natural slope of the land to capture the water from the road and from the driveway going down, because most of the house here is already being captured in these existing rain garden and infiltration pits. Here's some photos of the site. So that corner what I was showing, and that is actually back in here by these windows. And so it would come out here and extend across the front of the garage. That's just another view of it. This is from the road. You can see that there is a fair amount of slope here as well. So that proposed rain garden would be off to the left over here, kind of by that little pine tree. And you can see that the grade of the land is going to take and direct water into that rain garden. This is the view to the neighboring property to the north. So there is some tree cover present. So this is to the southwest where they already have those other lots. So there's no homes towards that direction. This is the view across the road going to the northeast. So again, this is that small pine tree, approximately where the rain garden would be, and here's the house location. So again, that rain garden structure would be capturing the water off from the driveway and off from the slope up towards the road. This is basically the opposite direction. The road is in the background here. Since the packet was published, we did hear from the Town of Somerset Plan Commission. They have approved of the variance. The National Park Service has also approved of the variance. And then the DNR, we received a letter a couple of days ago regarding this request, and I will pull that up and summarize it for the board.
Do you want to give us exhibit numbers right while we're on it, so I don't forget, please?
Yes.
One from the Somerset Plan Commission, and then one from the DNR, I gather.
Yep. So what do we have for exhibits currently? Okay, so Exhibit 3 would be the minutes from the Town of Somerset Plan Commission meeting, and I can read that in if you'd like.
Oh, you summarized it already.
Okay,
It's an okay.
and that was their February 17th meeting is when they took and approved of it. And then the DNR comment will be Exhibit 4.
Got it. And that's an okay also, but you're about to
Yep.
go through that one in more detail.
So they've got the background information on the property here. They have met with our county staff on the application. Of course, and that with any variance, we gotta have unique physical property features. It cannot harm the public interest, and it has to be providing an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. So I'm just gonna jump down to the last kind of the summary of the comment. The department is not opposed to the board granting the requested variance, provided the Board of Adjustment finds the applicant has met the burden of proof that the request meets all of the statutory requirements for granting the variance above. For each individual variance request, if the board finds the above criteria have been met, the department provides consent to granting the variances. The department also suggests that a condition be placed that such best management practices shall be utilized during construction to prevent erosion and sedimentation. Please note that all these comments are regarding the Lower St. Croix overlay and do not affect the shoreline zoning or floodplain, waterway permitting, et cetera. That's kind of a summary of her comment. So they did provide consent on these variances. And then the next couple slides just talk about the applicable statutes and criteria from the county's Chapter 17 ordinance. Both of those slides. And then we do have findings of fact and conclusions of law document provided, and that if the board wants to have comment and then go back to that. But with that, I'll turn it over for any questions of the board.
No? I can't think of any questions either. Does the applicant want to be heard from at this point? And if so, please sign in if you haven't already, over there on the wall, and then step up to the podium and speak if you'd like to.
Good morning. Thank you for hearing our case. I don't have anything to add, unless you have any specific questions you'd like to ask of me about.
Could I have your name and address for the
Yes,
record?
it's my name's David Valentine. I'm one of the trustees of the Twin Springs Trust at 1502 Twin Springs Road.
So you agreed with the staff report, with what Mr. Cheezitz said earlier, I take it. I thought I read, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I read someplace that there was an intention to convert one of the garage stalls into a bedroom.
That's correct.
Will you need to resize your septic system then to accommodate one more bedroom?
Apparently not.
Oh, You've looked into it and it looks like
Yep.
you won't need to. Oh, good. Did you use septic, Apostle septic also?
Was that? So I'm not the lead spouse on this project. I'm here as a figurehead more than anything. So from my understanding, we don't need additional. We're not actually adding a bedroom. The larger project of which this is a part includes. We had a very small kitchen with a small bedroom next to it. So we took that bedroom away, expanded the kitchen, and so it's a replacement of so we won't have more numbers of bedrooms. And likewise, we're shifting bathrooms around so that the number of bathrooms will remain the same. So there's no difference in terms of number of bathrooms and bedrooms, although obviously by expanding into the garage, it'll be a bit bigger.
My recollection from previous cases in this neighborhood was that there is rock quite shallow under the topsoil there, and on more than one of the properties there was kind of spring water flowing under them. Do you have that here on this site?
We don't. There are a couple of springs, maybe less than a quarter of a mile south of us. There's nothing north of us in terms of springs. There are the springs of Twin Springs Road are south of us.
Yeah. I'm thrashing around for what's unique about this property because, as you probably heard in the previous case, we need to find that the physical limitations are unique. That if the nearest 37 property owners came in wanting to do the same thing, would we, being consistent with ourselves, grant all 37 of them, or is there something different here about your property
It's very reasonable.
that makes it meritorious? Yeah. Okay. What's the total? Well, the total finished space is going to be what, about 400? Was it 400 square feet more than it now is, and the total was then going to be what?
No, the proposed addition is 4.8 by 40 feet for a total of 192 square feet of new area.
Okay.
It's only one story.
And, all right, and the new grand total for the existing plus the new, I know it was in here, it's probably slide number 3 or so, but I didn't write it down at the time. What'll our, on the last one, we made a finding that a house of under 2,000 square feet verges on a hardship.
Yep, so the total with the addition would be 3,307 feet approximately.
Okay,
And that's with the attached garage.
yeah, right. And probably the part that will remain garage, not bedroom, is probably about one stall or...
It'll be a 2-stall garage. It's actually currently we have a 3-stall garage.
Oh, okay. So subtract from that 40 by 16 or something, and you have living space left. Okay, still above 2,000. So we can't justify the hardship on that grounds quite. All right. Any more questions for Mr. Ballantyne? Nope. Okay, yes, sir.
So if you don't mind, I think somebody who's more eloquent on this will help.
Yeah, good morning, Board. My name is Zach Fagan with ACA Engineering. We were the consultants, the agent helping the Valentine and the owners of the property. I believe the hardship that they were having was access into their garage. Currently, during winter months, it's very difficult to access the garage doors due to ice and some of the issues there. This would enclose that area and allow them to access it more safely as they get a little bit older.
Could you explain that a little bit? You're essentially saying that without a hallway in front of the garage doors?
Yeah, covered
There's a
entryway,
safety
which this would
issue?
serve.
Now I know what to say.
Ah, good, good.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, in part because of this, the way that the driveway,
Slopes.
slopes directly from the road, and that this area right out that you can see here pictured gathers all the water that comes down, and it sort of shoots down those exit pipes that Jason was talking about. This essentially becomes an ice rink in the winter, and it's not much easier around the other side because of runoff that we have built French drains for, but in the winter, of course, freezes over. So it's very hard to get to our dog run with our dogs. So the point of this this expansion out from the garage to form a walkway is to give us access to that dog run, and make it easier to get to the garage as well. So that's the primary concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Did I
Mr.
express that
Fagan.
well?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Question. I just have a question. So is the garage, is there access from the interior of the garage into the home?
There is currently, in the current configuration, yes.
Anything else that you wish to say?
No, I believe this is, as staff mentioned, a landward side, so it will not be visible by any means from the river.
Right.
And the owners of the property have done really well trying to mitigate storm water. And I believe they're going above and beyond even what the county requires for mitigation of this site. So with the addition of the rain garden and removing some of the impervious surface currently there on the driveway, this roofed area or the covered area addition, the 4.8 feet by 40 feet, will actually just replace some of the existing impervious out in front of the garage as well. So just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah, there actually, there are no houses to the south of this property, so there's nobody to see it except across the street maybe. Yeah, so visibility from the river is zero and visibility from any neighbor is zero except across the street. Certainly points in its favor, I suppose. We do, as a board, generally try to do the best we can to get applicants to apply best management practices and deal with surface water runoff anytime they apply for any kind of a variance or conditional use permit. Trying our best to help everybody to keep anything that might be polluting out of the St. Croix waters. Any other questions? No? Okay, we'll just stand by. Is there anybody else who wants to speak in favor of this application? How about opposition? Is there anybody who wants to speak in opposition to it? No? Neutral, just something they want to say to help us make a better decision? No? Sounds like there are no more witnesses to be dealt with then. And board members, you have no questions? No, no last minute thoughts? Good. All right, I'm gonna thank you for your testimony. And I'll close the hearing. It's now 10:19 by our favorite clock on the wall. And ask you, Justin, if you can help us, or Jason, help us through the analysis of the variance here and meeting of the criteria. And I just, in case you, did you draft something that probably is for approval?
Okay.
Okay, we'll hand it out and give one to the applicants at this stage. Now, I don't want you to think, Alicia, that we're doing some kind of a rubber stamp of what the staff has prepared in advance, because that would be completely inappropriate. Just as much as if the applicants came in with, something written out and said, here, please sign here. We make independent judgments, but once we have a feeling that we're heading in a certain direction, then it's appropriate to work together on the wording of it and the conditions. Am I right in thinking, board members, that you're generally leaning in favor here? Yeah, so, okay, let's see what we can do to make our analysis fit the law that we have to apply.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the findings of fact were pretty much covered in the staff report. The property is at 1502 Twin Springs Road, and it is owned by the Twin Springs Trust. The total property size is 1.17 acres in the Lower St. Croix Riverway District. The applicants are applying for a variance to expand a non-conforming structure within the 40-foot bluff line setback. The proposed addition is 192 square feet. The applicant, to address some of the contrary to public interest, is willing to remove 370 square feet of existing pavement and turn it into pervious pavers. Also, they are willing to install a rain garden to accommodate a 25-year storm event on the site. The Town of Somerset Plan Commission reviewed the request on February 17th and approved. And National Park Service provided comments just a couple of days ago, and they are in agreement that it is a permissible use of the scenic easement that's on the property. The DNR provided consent also on February 24th of the proposed variance. So then, and that the board, and that can grant, extend, or increase any use that prohibited by the zoning ordinance. But this is a permitted use as a dwelling, and that within the R2 and the Lower St. Croix Riverway District. Staff believe that the variance request is not based solely on economic gain or loss. There was a lot of talk about accessibility to the dwelling and making their floor plan work. The variance request, and that is to address those issues as safety concerns of the property, and they have not created those hardships because they bought the dwelling where it is. And the site was originally constructed in 1972. The proposed addition, we believe as staff, would not damage the rights or the property values of other people or other properties in the area, since it will not be viewable from the river or from any neighboring dwellings. And we also believe that the request would not allow any actions that would require any ordinance amendments. And the existing structure is not a historic structure. So with that, the conditions that staff would suggest if the board was wanting to approve of this request would be that the applicant must follow the plan that was submitted to our office, that the maximum dwelling addition size would be 192 square feet, that the structure has to remain visually inconspicuous from the St. Croix River, that the structure would use earth tone materials, which it currently is with that dark brown, and that any glass cannot be reflective, even though that glass won't be viewable from the river either. The rain garden will be sized for that 25-year storm event, and the applicant must obtain a permit and comply with any other local, state, or federal permits as part of this project, but we believe that they have got all of those approvals already, and that any new owners, and that would also have to follow this variance conditions. Is there any comments on any of the conclusions or findings or the proposed conditions from staff?
Do we want to make mention that it's a minimal request, more or less?
Yeah, I think that would be good. Oh, I could agree with that, that the minimal relief of the small addition, yeah. Something about that. I think we've mentioned that it's about safety, having to do with ponding water. And I think physical limitations of the hardship not due to the or is due to the physical limitations of the property rather than the circumstances of the applicant. No, what do you? Yeah, I think in number, you've got 4 in front of you there, Jason. How about adding there that it's not be visible from the St. Croix River or the neighbors and is minimally visible? So just, slip in those 3 words, or neighbors, neighboring properties, yep. And put the minimal relief in under maybe 2.
Yep.
Oh, you already did.
Yep,
Yeah,
I got her
that's
there.
good. What is unique about what is the unique physical limitation of this property? Is it the rock under the surface?
It's a relatively small lot, because the home is already going over on 2 lots. And the bluff line setback, already limits the buildable window, and so does the setback off the road. And then the board could also, maybe find that the terrain of the site is very steep as well, so there could be other slope preservation zones and stuff that limit where they can build.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. So it's 1.17 acres even with 2 lots combined already. And extensive part of the lot that's devoted to slopes. And you had a third point, which now escapes me. Oh, that it's not a flat lot after you subtract the riverward slope. It's still not flat, and now it slopes from the house site towards the road. Yeah. Okay, did you get something good in there?
Property is unique due to the small lot size, small building window, and it has a lot of slope towards the river. And I can put parentheses, slope preservation zone.
Yeah, you might also, yeah, so Bran, there's also a slope towards the street, I believe,
Okay.
slope on the street side. And don't we use the phrase buildable area? You said building window, which maybe means exactly the same thing. Maybe that's the way they say it in Polk County. But
Well, I mean, there's contiguous
That's an
buildable
inside
area. There is net project area.
and they all subtract from the buildable area, yeah. Is this going in the direction where you board members feel like you want it to go? Did we get the minimal relief in their phrase somewhere?
Right
Oh, yeah,
here,
yeah, we did.
number 2.
Thanks. I'm getting fuzzy already, I think. And it's only 10:29. If that be suitable and covers all the points that everybody wants to, and they think it meets all the legal criteria that we think we need to do, in order to meet the standards that the DNR reminds us we need to meet, then I think we're ready for a motion. Who wants the glory of making it?
I'll make a motion approving the variance, or variance?
Yep, it's a variance.
Variance, yeah. with these changes in the recommendation.
I'll second.
Good show. Is there more discussion or debate among you members before we vote? Okay. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimously approved then. Okay. If you are able to get that printed out, I'll be glad to sign it. I've got a meeting with Mr. Witt, probably about whether he's gonna recommend my reappointment or not. I probably need an advocate, yes. Mr. Peterson, thank you for the offer.
As long as he stays chairman, we'll advocate for you.
Well, if it's not me, it'd probably be one of you, huh?
Nice try.
Okay, any non-specific things to talk about? What does next month look like, for instance? Upcoming training sessions, anything else we should talk about?
So we have two items for next month. Both are two separate properties that are both requesting a lift to be able to access, the water below.
Conditional use permit for a
Correct,
lift, and
yes.
everybody is entitled to one, but there are some factors to be applied.
Correct.
Yeah. If that's all that, and has the cutoff date passed, so those are the only ones we could possibly have? What about
Yes.
the one at, Glen Willow Road? Aren't they gonna be back soon with that,
They've withdrawn their request, so they will not be moving
catering
their
thing?
request forward.
oh. Okay, well, I hope they're building in a business zone, make our
They may continue
businesses-
with the business, but they are withdrawing their variance application for the setback.
Oh, they could just make it smaller, maybe. Oh, okay.
They'll just build it anyway. We see enough of that going on.
No, please, no. Do we? Do you out in your town?
Oh, yeah.
See ones that started before they got a permit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of building permits that way. Yeah.
One of the groups that I'm on is using an idea in the St. Croix Riverway that actually originated in Troy, where Alicia lives. It's a sign that towns can place along their right-of-ways at any place that they have a road or a street that goes to the riverway. So at the riverway boundary, they put it within their right-of-way, and it's a sign that basically says, you're entering the St. Croix Riverway. And then it sort of says permits required. But it also says property is private unless it's posted as public, so people don't get the idea this is one huge park, let's bring out our picnic bench,
Yeah, sure.
that kind of thing. But the idea is to try to minimize those building without permit. Oh, I didn't know that there were riverway rules. The signs only cost about $50, and of course, towns and cities and villages are in the business of putting up road signs all the time. They have crews that do it. These come from one of the sign suppliers that everybody uses for their normal highway signs
Okay.
in the town, city, and village. Now, I don't have anything to suggest for an area that's not in the riverway. Sorry about that, Mr. Miller. But this idea has been growing, and already there are 35 local units of government, counting both sides of the St. Croix River, in the riverway. And already 5 of them have ordered these signs and are
Okay.
putting them up, hoping to cut down on the number of construct first and get a permit later situations. Yeah. I took us off track, but I thought you might be interested in that. You may have heard about it if you went to last year's workshop on the water.
Yeah.
Remember, we rolled out that idea then? Yeah. What else do we have to talk about? We already know the date of next month's meeting.
Yep. I'd just like to take and make sure that the board is aware that on March 3rd, the county board will be possibly, the board will be considering proposed amendments to Chapter 14, which is our non-metallic mining ordinance. Some small tweaks to Chapter 15, which is our general zoning ordinance. Chapter 17, which is the Lower St. Croix River ordinance, and then Chapter 21, which is our recycling and solid waste ordinance. So those amendments have all went through committee. There was a public hearing here last week on them, and so they'll be up for your county board action on the 3rd. So, any questions?
Are any of them controversial?
And then we really didn't get any controversy with any of them. There was a couple, I'll call them typos, or we duplicated the text on Chapter 14. That was the only comment we had for that. On Chapter 15, there was some questions about farmland preservation and using farmland preservation to protect land from being developed into solar. And then Chapter 17 and 21, we had no comments on. What the board has been doing with the 25-year storm event, and that along the St. Croix River, that is in the proposed ordinance, so that'll be consistent.
And there was no opposition to that concept at the hearing?
No opposition to that concept at the hearing, so staff has a spreadsheet that'll take and calculate options for that 25-year storm event of 4.7 inches of rain versus the current ordinance is a 1.5 inch rainfall event. But there was no opposition. We'll be able to handle it in-house. It'll actually be cheaper for the property owner to get it done. And they'll just basically put those extra funds into actually trying to capture more runoff, and it'll be better for the St. Croix. So any new impervious will be required in that to mitigate it at that 25-year event.
Should be good. Anything else that we should talk about? All right, then I will declare our meeting adjourned. We've come to the end of the agenda. It wouldn't be legal to talk about anything else. So see you in March, hopefully.
Yep.
Do you want to talk, Alicia, about what surprised you about today's meeting? And you probably don't want Joe to hear you.
Several.